From the plains to the rolling hills, Oklahoma is a state that resonates with stories of resilience, determination, and pride. Welcome to Inside the 1581, a podcast of the Oklahoma Hospital Association. Together, we'll dive deep into the heartbeat of the great state of Oklahoma as we journey through the rich history, diverse culture, and the ever-evolving landscape within the 1,581 miles of border in our nation's 20th largest state. Each episode of Inside the 1581 will feature conversations with the many voices which help shape our state's future and our shared vision of improving health and healthcare in Oklahoma.
Welcome to this edition of Inside the 1581. I'm your host, Rich Rasmussen, and today we're going to talk about youth medical mentoring. And I'm delighted to have joining me today Jacob Cleveland, who's the director of Youth Medical Mentorship. Welcome, Jacob.
Thank you. Thank you so much for the opportunity to be here.
Well, we're gonna talk a little bit about how important it is to grow our workforce and develop talent. And I can think of no better way than just starting with mentorship. And I think as a father trying to mentor your kids, but as business leaders trying to mentor the next generation of healthcare leaders, I think that's equally important.
Absolutely. We have this idea of personal growth and the development, and somewhere along the way in the past couple decades, we've gotten away from true mentorship. You look at a lot of career fields that have maybe an apprenticeship or a fellowship, right? You come in at this level, you learn these skills, and then you move on into your full-time career. It's a great model.
Well, before we get to that model, let's talk about you.
Oh,
I mean, you have a doctorate.
Yes.
I mean, you're all in on this.
Yes.
And so tell us a little bit about Jacob, how you got to where you're at. And certainly, I believe you have a doctorate in healthcare administration.
Yes, sir.
And so let's just talk a little bit about Jacob and what got you, into this or led you into this role.
Well, thank you so much. So, yes, I'm Jacob Cleveland. I am from, spent most of my life in Shawnee, Oklahoma. That's what I consider my hometown.
Brad Pitt's from Shawnee.
Brad Pitt is.
He needs to come back for the F1 Formula movie release, don't you think?
He does. I often say
he listens to this podcast all the time, by the way.
I believe it.
Yeah,
I often say he's the second best looking guy to come out of Shawnee, Oklahoma.
Number one?
Right behind me.
There you
go.
And your mom would say that.
And my mother would, yes.
She would. Okay.
Yes.
All right. So, Brad, when you're listening, bro, you need to come back to Shawnee for the screening of your F1 movie that comes out in a week, I think.
Yes, Brad. We'll hook you up with some YMM merch as well.
There you go. There you go.
Yes, good old Shawnee, Oklahoma is my hometown. I graduated Shawnee High School and went to Oklahoma Baptist University. Received a great education there, but I went into college kind of with two paths. Which direction do I want to go? Do I want to go into like a full-time ministerial role, full-time ministry? But I always had healthcare administration in the back of my mind.
But Jacob, there's not a lot of separation between being called into pastoral leadership and being called into healthcare, because in both places you're a healer.
Absolutely, you're a healer. And when you actually look at, and this is one thing I observed through my studies at OBU, when I look at the ministry of Jesus Christ, his miracles were often partnered with physical healings, right? And so I always felt drawn back to the healthcare world, but I knew I didn't want to be a clinician. My father is an occupational therapist by trade turned healthcare administrator as well. And I realized after seeing so much exposure into what he does in different parts of the hospital as well, I don't want to be a clinician, but I love hospitals, I love clinics, I love healthcare, and I want to help make Oklahoma healthier. I have this desire to see lives changed in that arena. So I remember being 18 years old, and then again at the end of my college career, through a friendship my father had with a hospital administrator, I had the opportunity to sit down and get 30 minutes at 18 and 30 minutes at 21 with Chuck Skillings, the former president and CEO of SSM Shawnee Hospital. Sure. Yes, and so just getting to pick his brain and see where he thinks healthcare is going, see what his challenges were, what he enjoyed doing. And so everybody's got their path, right? Everybody's got a different path. For me, it was go and get this degree that I'm glad I have. I love it. I learned a lot from OBU, and I'm so grateful for the opportunity. I met my wife there freshman year. We started dating then, and now have almost 9 years of marriage and 2 beautiful children with my wife, and all that stems from this experience at OBU. But I knew I wanted to get into the healthcare administration world, and so seeking guidance from my father, but also a couple of hospital leaders, I decided to do my master's in healthcare administration through Oklahoma State University Center for Health Sciences. I completed that in about a year and then dove straight into clinic management. I have such a high regard for mentorship, because without mentorship, I would not be blessed with the opportunities that I have been blessed with.
Well, and there's a strong correlation. I mean, we know that any employee that has a strong leader that mentors them, it's going to ensure success. And we know, too, that we've seen even some of the data that the Oklahoma Hospital Association has gathered, where we see particularly young nurses entering the field very early on. Without appropriate mentorship, they leave.
Absolutely.
And I think that's not symptomatic of just nursing. I think virtually any profession, but certainly in the health profession, where it can be difficult work. And so mentorship is critical to that. So your involvement is truly appreciated. One of the biggest challenges that we see as a field, the hospitals see, is recruiting and certainly retaining our talent. And we tend to always look outside our state for some of that talent. But we have a lot that is right here. And we have young folks that are looking for what's in it for me. They see AI as an impediment potentially for some jobs, so they're fearful of that. They see career tech opportunities out there, and certainly they see opportunities, in healthcare is one example. But we have to get to them earlier, right? And I think that's what you guys are attempting
Absolutely.
to do. So why don't you walk us through about the creation of YMM, the professionals that are involved, and some of the work that goes on behind the scenes that sets up this environment that allows this program to be so successful?
Absolutely. So Youth Medical Mentorship launched in January of 2023. That was our first cohort of students in Tulsa. But the idea and the passion has been around much longer. Our executive director, Dr. Christopher McNeil, he's an emergency medicine physician based in Tulsa. The story goes he sat down one night and wrote it on a napkin. This is how the structure works. This is how we recruit from our communities into the health professions in our communities, thus retaining talent, developing the workforce, developing our communities, reducing social determinants of health, and reinforcing our hospital systems, right, and our clinics. And so he draws this out on a napkin. He's in med school at the time, and he has to wait patiently. So through the years, Dr. McNeil strategically built relationships that would help launch these programs. I met Dr. McNeil when he was a third-year medical student. We hit it off well. I tried to recruit him to be a resident for me, and he said, no, I've got work to do in Tulsa. Well, flash forward a couple years, and this is the work that he wanted to launch in Tulsa. And so Dr. McNeil, being an emergency medicine physician, he said, hey, I can't do this alone. I'm in residency. I need some support. And so he began reaching out to different key strategic players in the area. So he reached out to me as one of the first 3 employees of YMM. There was Dr. McNeil, myself, and Dr. Eula Green, who is a psychologist and therapist, runs her own private practice in Tulsa. So he reached out to us and he said, hey, I've got this vision. How does this work? And so we sat down and operationalized the project. A lot of the work that goes behind the scenes originally was we're wearing all the hats. You see, our bread and butter is after-school programming. So we
Sure.
go into middle schools in the area, as you mentioned.
Mostly in middle schools, or are you in high schools as well?
Mostly in middle schools for
Okay.
our after-school program,
Okay,
because we
after school.
believe, as you've mentioned just a moment ago, that catching them at the youngest age while still on that cusp of growing into an adult, right, they're forward thinking, that's the time to catch them. And so we primarily have our after-school programs in middle schools where we're reaching 6th, 7th, and 8th graders, showing them the medical field, So oftentimes the behind the scenes work is we're going to make sure we have our volunteers in place. We're going to make sure we have the medical students on site to help corral the students. We're going to make sure that a YMM staff member is there and our educators that sign up as YMM contractors hosting the students each week, that they feel prepared and ready to go. So it's a lot of logistics and operations on that piece. It's a lot of relationship building, which is my primary role within the organization is, hey, if we've got a month coming up for pharmacy, do we have a relationship with the Oklahoma Pharmacy Association that can help provide subject matter expertise in the area, maybe put a pharmacist in the classroom so the children can see, what does a pharmacist actually do? I mean, I see him at CVS or I see him at Walmart, but there's so much more to it regarding healthcare and our safety. So a lot of relationship building. We also have a whole data analytics wing that only comes up when we send out our pretty graphics that have, our statistics of improvement or GPA or any other metrics that come from YMM. So we have the operations, we have the data statistics, we have the relationship buildings. It also, in this day and age, it takes a full media team as well, as you're well aware.
Well, I'm looking right here. I mean, you've got a really good video where you cite to recruit health professionals like professional athletes from cradle to career.
Absolutely.
And so tell me about that. I mean, obviously you're trying to attract young folks, trying to draw them into your web presence. Tell us, where did that's your vision as you're stating your vision. Tell us about how those words play into that vision.
Absolutely. So Dr. McNeil, he's an incredibly impressive human being. He not only is a physician, but he's also a collegiate athlete. He was a wrestler at Oklahoma State University.
Okay.
So, cream of the crop, high quality athlete as well. And he started to notice from a young age, man, I'm getting recruited young. Especially in-state recruitment was huge for him. He gets his scholarship. He goes and wrestles for Oklahoma State University. And his thought was, why aren't we doing this for the medical profession? I'm a huge sports fan, and I have watched forever.
You must be a Cowboy fan.
I'm not a Cowboys fan.
No, I mean,
OSU.
Yeah.
Yes, sorry.
Okay.
Dallas Cowboys,
okay.
no. Oklahoma State,
who
absolutely.
wants to be a Dallas Cowboy fan? No, I agree.
So, yes, we watch our favorite athletes, and you start to hear what it takes to get to that level. And they start 4th, 5th, 6th, 7th, 8th grade, intense workouts. Very rarely do you find a professional athlete that didn't do anything athletic until junior, senior year in high school,
Sure.
right? They have set up structure and they have disciplined themselves from such a young age in order to achieve the success. But they didn't do it alone, right? They had a parent, they had a coach, they had a grandparent, they had someone, a mentor that believed in them enough to take them to practice, to take them to early morning workouts, to pay for the batting cages, to whatever it may be. They had someone that believed in them and that was willing to mentor them in the space or connect them with the right mentors. Right? I have a 6-year-old son who I love to death. He wants to be a soccer star. I know nothing about soccer, but if I can guide him to someone that does,
Sure.
That's the bridge that we're able to build.
Well, you get to be the IMG for health recruiting. You think of most of your prep schools when you think about those that are building, these elite athletes. You think of IMG and what they've done, in multiple sports. So you have a term that you use. It's called planting a seed. Tell us a little bit about how do you plant a seed for you to consider a profession in healthcare.
So as we know from looking just at agriculture, at trees, right, it takes a long time for a tree to grow. You've got to nurture it well. You've got to give it the resources that it needs to thrive. Not too much different with growing a career as well. Nobody finds true success overnight. So,
is there any career that you find that young people are most interested in? Is it a physician, a nurse, rad techs? Where do you see that? Or do they want to be the next PhD from OSU?
Right. So what we're finding right now is every student is different. You think, oh, I want to be a doctor. That's going to be the primary response from our students. But so, for example, at our summits, a great way we plant a seed in these students' lives is we host these events.
And that's where we had some of our OHA team was at that. So, yeah, let's go into that because I think,
absolutely.
Alex, were you a part of that too?
No.
No? Okay. I just remember that I think Emily and Patrice, I think, may have participated in that from our team.
Yes, we were so grateful to have Eric and Patrice on site
Oh, okay. It was Eric
for
and
the
Patrice.
summit. Yes,
Okay.
sir. And it's a great event. This was our first one that we had at OU Health Science Center. We do them 3 times a year in Tulsa, which is where we started the programming. We expanded to Oklahoma City this year, and so we launched our first summit at OU. But our summit, it's held at a school. It's held at a hospital of some kind.
So
It's
there's
held
an
at the medical
opportunity to
school.
really grow this then.
Absolutely.
I mean, I think of what they're doing at the regional nursing campus at Duncan Regional as an example. I think what we got at Cameron, so I think there's hopefully for our members who listen to this and others in the community that listen to this that they could explore this as an opportunity for them to break out and to branch out in how they're doing their local community engagement, but their recruiting as well.
Absolutely. So what we have found through running these summits is we bring the students to the site, whether that's Hillcrest.
And so you're contacting the schools, right? You literally are doing the recruitment of middle schoolers and bringing high schoolers and bringing them in.
We bus them in. Oftentimes, the schools, we're really grateful for their partnerships. They will bus the students in because we're offering them this free service. It's completely free for our students. The students will show up, and the first thing, if you watch our videos online or you've been you talk with somebody that's been on site, the very first thing, they get off the bus, they check in, they walk in the door, and we fit them with a white coat. And they walk down this aisle with 40, 50, 60 people cheering for them, just happy that they're there and showing that, hey, we believe in you, right? So we're starting to plant the seeds from the moment that they walk in that someone believes in you. And then you get in, we do our introductions, and then we spend roughly 3 hours where our groups of students will rotate between different medical career stations. And so we often have some sort of EMS. This is CPR, this is the Heimlich, to show this is what maybe an EMT or a paramedic might do. We do a lot of disaster relief. Dr. McNeil, being an emergency medicine physician, he's well versed in how do you triage, how do you work within the disaster space. We've brought in OB-GYN and delivery simulations as well. We've brought in respiratory therapists. My good friend Gary Rivas, who's the vice president of operations out at Shawnee SSM, he has come and served as an exhibitor, bringing pig lungs in. So the students are able to see the anatomy of the lungs and how that works, inspiring maybe a career in respiratory therapy. So as they cycle through, they're learning what these career fields do through the exposure of this is what a day in a life might look like, but they're getting it hands-on. You can read all you want, and we're seeing this in the healthcare field, right? Part of that retention issue, people are seeing maybe what a travel nurse makes. Maybe they're being inspired by someone in their family that's a nurse. They're reading about it. They go through school, but if they've not been mentored in this is what the job actually looks like, then it presents a challenge. And so through the summits, we plant these seeds. Not only does someone believe in you, but these are the dozen different career fields that just barely scratch the surface of if you're interested in X, there's a medical career field for that.
You know, what you're describing there, we should have a further conversation offline and whether or not you may want to do one of these events at our annual meeting in November, where you would have, 600, 700 hospital leaders coming together, where for those that might be interested in the administrative side, or there could be opportunities for folks that are interested, for example, in nursing and following in a nursing track at our annual meeting, just to be around those who are leading our healthcare delivery system in our state. So I think it's an offline conversation that we can have on that. When we think about young people today, they obviously are influenced by a lot of external influencers, social media, and so forth. What do you think is the biggest influence for a young person to choose a career in healthcare?
It's a great question. This day and age, you look around, everyone has immediate access to everything. So we have this challenge of how do we give you the exposure that you're looking for right now on demand. That's an absolute challenge. We see that in the healthcare field as well, right? People want it now, and they do not want to wait on these things. One of the biggest influences that we see, and I'm going to give you two, and I've previously mentioned this. I apologize. You said one. I'm going to give you two here. Hope, the belief in someone that you can achieve X, Y, and Z is huge. There's this the hope score. It's a psychological score that some OU professors launched, and it's found that students who have one person that believe in them are significantly more likely to succeed in whatever endeavor they pursue. Hope is huge. The second is exposure. Youth Medical Mentorship is all about exposure. That is the most influential thing we have found in any and all student interactions. Is you can think, it'd be kind of cool to be a surgeon, or maybe I don't want to be a surgeon at all. I have no desire to do that. But when you get the hands-on exposure, you're influenced that, yes, I do want to do this, or no, it's not for me. So it's the hands-on exposure that we provide. It's the exposure to the mentors, to our clinicians that come in and say, hey, I'm Dr. So-and-so. I'm a surgeon over at Oklahoma State, University, CHS, and I want to support you in this, right? So that hope and the exposure are our two most influential.
Well, when you think about too, working in a hospital as an example, I mean, we really are mini cities. So there are opportunities for young people. It doesn't have to be in the clinical space. I mean, certainly we have folks that work in the business office that have a financial acumen. We have folks that are very good with technical skills that might be part of our physical plant management. We have those who are just incredible in terms of their culinary skills. We employ them in our food service. So it's not always in the clinical space. I mean, there is an opportunity, and for that matter, every hospital has multiple openings for employment. So it's not just those that are involved in direct patient care. And I think most young people do not look at a hospital as a career opportunity, regardless of the skill set you have or the technical skills you have. There's always a place for it. And we're going to come back and talk a little bit about that, Jacob. We're going to take a break here. In this edition of Inside the 1581, we've been joined by Jacob Cleveland, who's the director of the Youth Medical Mentorship, and he's been sharing with us the work that they're doing to have an impact on young people and helping to plant a seed, and hopefully planting a seed in a young person that chooses a career in healthcare. So when we return, we're going to pick up this conversation, but first we're going to hear from our friends at Cyrano Video.
Cyrano Video is a next-gen video production and digital marketing solution. Video creation doesn't have to be expensive or time-consuming. We enable you to create all the content you need while ensuring it reaches your intended audiences. Learn more at CyranoVideo.com.
Welcome back to this edition of Inside the 1581. As we took our break, I introduced folks to Jacob Cleveland, who is the director of Youth Medical Mentorship. And Jacob's been walking us through here a conversation on the work that they're doing to mentor young people into careers in healthcare. And I know at the break, Jacob, we were just talking about the opportunities outside of clinical positions working in hospitals. And you shared with me, some of the work that you guys are trying to do with young people and particularly with hospitals, bringing them into this conversation and looking at the work that you're doing for fertile ground for recruiting outside of the clinical space. So let's talk a little bit about that.
Absolutely. We really try to make our summits, part of our summits, just to be a softball for recruitment for both local schools in the medical field, but also hospitals looking for immediate employment. We have 100 to 200 students, primarily high school students, that many of them are graduating. We do a fall, a summer, and a spring. So you get those spring and summer summit participants. They very well may be looking for employment right away, or the parent that brought them has never thought of the local hospital as a place for employment. So one of the
for them or their child.
Sure. Exactly. Steady income, great benefits. Often there's tuition waivers, reimbursements, programs partnerships with the local.
And we have some examples where you may be working and receiving your education at the same place. I mean, we use the example of Duncan, where you can go to work and then you walk across the parking lot and you're in your nursing classes that are sponsored by OU.
Yes, oftentimes we find that these students, and maybe a student that didn't have a clear direction set for them or a clear vision of where they wanted to go, they feel like they have to pick one or the other, right? I have to pick school or I have to be able to eat. Right. And so opportunities like that in Duncan, or we have opportunities like that with SSM, they open the door to you can do both. Right. And so what we've started to do, we have been reaching out at for our different summits. We've been reaching out to local recruiters at the health systems, at the hospitals, to say, hey, would you like to send a recruiter here? It's absolutely free. We'll give you lunch. Just come set up a table and be prepared to connect with our students and with our students' parents or the guardians that brought them. It is fertile recruiting ground. And when you're in the space and you're being inspired, you're being motivated by all this healthcare talk and work that you're seeing, it's an incredible opportunity for local hospitals.
We should do a webinar just on that. So let's, again, we have two things to circle back on from our conversation today. So you're trying to do that outreach to hospital recruiters, hospital HR leadership. How do you recruit the young people? What's the process for that, and what type of relationships do you have, and where are there places that in partnerships might be able to grow that, to be able to ensure that we have the broadest representation of our young people, and certainly ensuring that we have good diversity in that representation. I know we often think of women in the roles of nursing, but we equally need men involved in nursing as an example. And so tell us how you do that.
Again, we like to take this recruiting method that we use for student athletes as well. No one bats an eye if a teacher. But there's no
NIL in this, right?
No okay. NIL. Yes, we're not paying millions.
Okay.
Yes,
there you go.
So no one bats an eye if a coach or a teacher goes to see the 6'4" 8th grader to say, "Hey, have you thought about playing basketball?" Why would we bat an eye if the science teacher went and said, "Hey, look, you got a 4.0 in my class, and you've had a 4.0 every single year. Have you thought about the medical field?" And so what we do with our after-school programs, and we adapt this at the high school level in schools, meeting their expectations and their requirements, right? Because much of it is school-specific, is Dr. McNeil usually will go into the school alongside with school leadership. They are fully on board with this, and an educator. At each site that we operate, YMM employs an educator, and that educator's job is open up your classroom. We're going to run programming in your classroom, but also these students better than us. Help us recruit the next level. And so we have data sharing agreements with the schools that we operate in. Everything's FERPA, everything's compliant. We have access to go in and see GPAs. We could see some demographics and whatnot, ensuring diversity. But at the same time, we're looking to see what student may show an inclination to, just based on GPAs, based on grades, to the medical field, right? Are there math and science scores excelling? Even if English may not be. Math and science are elevated, that might show an inclination towards, an affinity towards the medical field. And so we look at these statistics, and then we go meet the students. Our educators get an inside scoop on, if you're seeing the student every single day, you know the student. You know their tendencies, you know what may or may not inspire them. And so we recruit them just like Nick Saban may go into the local high school in Alabama trying to pull the next, Derrick Henry out of the crowd. And so it's a lot of hands-on exposure. Now that YMM has progressed, the recruitment has, in one way, it's gotten easier because people have been around, they've seen it, they've gone to the summits, they want to participate. Or, hey, my best friend is a part of this. I really want to be a part of this. Can I be a part of this as well? I want to be an X, Y, and Z in the medical field. And so now we've shifted into every student that in the schools where we currently reside, if you're interested in being in Youth Medical Mentorship, we have an affinity survey we need you to fill out. And then just like the expectations they would hold you to on a sports team or an after-school club of any other established kind, we have those same expectations as well. And so
now you had this event most recently at OU, correct?
Yes, sir.
How many folks participated in that?
So we had right at 80 students, I believe. Yes, we had right at 80 local students. And then we had 60 volunteers from different specialties, some YMM employees, some OU staff. We had a great number. And that is also a great recruiting opportunity because maybe Big Brother goes home and says, hey, look, I can't do this because I'm in high school or I'm graduating, but little brother, little sister, you should do this as well. And then social media is such a great recruiting tool. I would really encourage any healthcare organization to use social media to their advantage for recruiting.
So, with the work that you're doing, there's got to be some success stories. Can you share any of those with us? I mean, that is our key performance indicator,
Absolutely.
right? We get a great success story, want to build on that, and certainly we want to use that to build future successes. So give us a couple of those.
Again, we started in January 2023, officially launched January of 2023, so 2.5 years ago, right? We are playing the long game. And so our long game is let's create healthcare clinicians or healthcare administrators or whatever healthcare profession you want to be in. We're playing the long game trying to create that, right? Build the health equity in our communities, build the health literacy in our communities. But it's so encouraging to see the short-term wins as well. So one win that sticks out to me, and if you go onto our Facebook page, onto our Instagram, you can find it.
I'm on your website,
Perfect.
so I can check out the social too. Yeah.
So we have a student. He was in our very first cohort in January 2023. His name is Asher. Asher came in just a bit confused, as most, 7th, 8th grade boys are. Like, what in the world? Why do I have to start thinking about what I want to do in the future, right? And he says, I really didn't know what I wanted to do. By the end of those 5 months of programming, started in January, ended in May, Asher had said, hey, I want to be a neurosurgeon. I want to be a neurosurgeon, And at first, he tells the story that some people were like, oh, yeah, okay, whatever, as you do with your children when they say they want to be X, Y, and Z. We're 2 years later. Asher is he comes to the summit with these neuroscience books that he's been reading throughout. His attendance has improved. His grades are outstanding now, all because he has this. And he actually just landed a nursing internship at one of the local health systems there in Tulsa. He had no clue what he wanted to do, but we were able to plant that seed. And now 2 years later, we've seen all of these key performance indicators of attendance is great, grades are great, disruptive behavior is minimal.
He's got focus.
He's got focus.
He knows
and
where he
direction.
wants to go in his career,
and he's got mentorship, Rich, as well.
The support.
He's got the support. His parents feel supported. Like, oh, I can point I can point Asher to Jake Cleveland, to Dr. Chris McNeil, to the local hospital systems. Incredible victory there. We have also seen an increase in our student cohorts, those who run through after-school programming with Youth Medical Mentorship, in local early college programs as well. So like in Tulsa, there's the EDGE program, Earn a Degree, Graduate Early. I think that's through Tulsa Tech. We have seen several of our students just now get accepted going into their sophomore and junior year for this program, which is they get an associate's for free. By the time they graduate high school, they're done with their associates pursuing a career in healthcare. And amazing win. And then I'll share one more just from the summit. All that's from the after-school program. But from our summit, last summer, so roughly a year ago, we had a student that showed up to the summit just because my sister was coming. I didn't have anything else to do. And I'm going to OSU in the fall, but I don't want to do anything healthcare. I've never even given it a thought. And this student, she starts rotating through the different stations, and she gets to surgery. And we have an OSU surgery resident teaching them sutures. They have hands-on suture kits. They're learning how to suture. And this student, she was fixing to she had just graduated high school. She is throwing these stitches like nobody's business. I mean, the resident, the surgeon told me, like, man, she's better than me, right? And he goes up and he says, hey, where'd you learn to do that? Like, is your parent a teacher, is your parent a doctor? No, I live with my grandma, and we just crochet all the time. We sew all the time. And she said, this is just like sewing. And he said, well, you're really good at it. And she said, can I make money and can I help people by doing this? He said, you can make a lot of money and help a lot of people by doing this. And while we were at that event, she emailed her OSU advisor to say, hey, I want to be pre-med. Please switch my classes and my degree plan to a pre-med track. And now she's just finished up her freshman year going into sophomore year with this pre-med track, all because she realized, I'm good at this. I can make a career out of this and help a lot of people with it as well. She just needed that spark. She needed that seed planted.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, we did a economic impact study last year, and we found out that hospital workers on average are paid 28% higher than the state average. So there is really good income in that. And certainly that's scaled differently depending on where you are in your education, your skill set within a hospital, but on average. And so it does create a real healthy opportunity for you and your family. And we talk about it a lot here that, a young nurse or a rad tech in their first year of work can literally be in a position to own their first home.
Yes.
And it's hard to find that in other career professions. We want to see every teacher being able to afford their own home, but they may not. But if you're a young nurse, a rad tech, even folks that are working in clinical lab have the opportunity to have enough income to literally plant their roots here and build a family and own a home. You can't say that about a lot of career opportunities, particularly someone who can do that with an associate's degree, right. Let alone a bachelor or master, or like you, a PhD. So,
yes, that is one of my favorite things about the work that we do within Youth Medical Mentorship, is that just objectively speaking, looking at the numbers, I'm a numbers guy. I'm a data guy. When we look at the numbers and you take a student, we are largely launched in underdeveloped, underrepresented areas of Oklahoma, right, where poverty tends to be pretty prevalent. When you take a student that is destined for $7 an hour, $10 an hour, a job, not a career. Right. Statistically speaking, that's what they're headed towards. And you can inspire them to go on to be a doctor. But at the minimum, maybe they don't like school. Maybe they don't want to be in school for a long, long time. Go do an associate's for 2 years. You come out with your RN, your rad tech, your sonography, your respiratory therapy license. And now you're 20 years old, 21 years old, and you can afford your first house, right? We're breaking those cycles of income scarcity within our own communities. And over time, that will develop and develop and develop into a healthier, greater, less impoverished state.
And we need that. I mean, when you look at the demographic changes, I'm the last year of the baby boomers. And so I'll be, eligible for Medicare and Social Security sooner than I'd like. But the demographics are definitely changing as we have more and more folks that are evolving into their senior years and certainly are living much longer. Mm-hmm. So the level of healthcare that we're going to have to be able to deliver in our country is going to continue to grow almost exponentially. Before we wrap this up, Jacob, I just wanted to ask you just one question I think most folks would want to have answered, and that is, how do they get involved? How would a hospital get involved if they wanted to be a sponsor, or if a recruiter or an HR leader wanted to be in a position of helping to bring you to their community? How could they do that, and who would they need to talk to if they need to talk to you? Absolutely. But how does that work?
Yes, we would love all the partnerships possible. YMM is not possible without the local partnerships in our communities that provide the subject matter expertise. We've got a lot of people on staff, but we may have one emergency medicine physician. He can't be at all programs every single week while balancing a clinical schedule and a family. So these partnerships are vital to our success. If someone wanted to get involved, there's multiple ways to get involved. We absolutely need we need human capital. We need the volunteers, the partnerships with local organizations. You know, you did a podcast episode back in August with Integris and
Sure.
up in Miami,
Yep.
right? And they have this direct internship opportunity straight into the local hospital systems. Those are the things that we would love to partner with. We're not recreating the wheel. We're just kind of building a bridge to get from A to B here. If they wanted to get in contact, I would encourage them to go to our website. There's a Contact Us opportunity on our website. Our website is going through some changes right now. We're revamping it. Very excited for some of those changes, but there should be a Contact Us link there.
YouthMedicalMentorship.org.
Yes, youthmedicalmentorship.org is the place to go. You can also reach us on social media. If you look up, we're on Instagram and we're on Facebook.
And there's LinkedIn on here too for a
There's-
health
yes.
leader who's probably not as savvy on Instagram as the
Sure.
kids are, but there's a place there for him as well.
Absolutely. Reach out in those methods. Those get to our executive team, so Dr. McNeil, myself, and one or two others as well get access to that. You'll likely be hearing from me, as my role is primarily building relationships, finding how we can benefit from each other, right? It's not just YMM benefits from this. It's the organizations benefit, and then the kids benefit from us playing ball together. So reaching out in those ways are the absolute best. Anyone is more than welcome to add me on LinkedIn. I'm active on LinkedIn, and they can reach out to me directly as well. Keep an eye on our social medias and our websites for upcoming events such as our summits or after-school programs. We do local health fairs in more rural parts of the state as well. A lot of activities coming out here from YMM. So the website's the best place to find our links to contact.
Well, Jacob, I appreciate you coming and spending some time with us today. And please keep us updated on your calendar. I mean, we're always looking for content in our newsletter that we distribute to, over 6,000 healthcare leaders across the state. So if we can do that, we have some follow-up items that we
Yes.
talked about earlier today.
Yes, sir.
We'll do that. And so, I'm just delighted to have joining me on this episode of Inside the 1581, Jacob Cleveland, who is the director of the Youth Medical Mentorship here in Oklahoma. And we've been learning about the work that they're doing, the important work that they're doing to plant seeds with young people who are in search of careers in their life, and hopefully healthcare will be one of those. So as we wrap up, I want to say thank you again for those listening, joining us at this edition of Inside the 1581. And I hope you enjoyed our episode talking about medical youth mentorship. But before we go, I want to extend a huge thank you to our incredible sponsors, the folks at Cyrano Video, who work with us really weekly. I mean, I'm looking at Alex here because we post our weekly messages to our members, and they also serve as our anchor platform for our distribution of our content. We appreciate everything that they're doing. And also for our producer, Alex Taylor, who makes this podcast happen. And for our Vice President of Strategic Communications, Susie Wallace, please make sure that you subscribe and follow us and stay up to date on our future episodes. And I also want to mention the music that we're using, as we use every week. It's the track Gunslinger by Ends of the Earth. And again, we thank you everyone for joining us of this edition of Inside the 1581. Look for the next one to drop in 2 weeks. I hope everyone has a great week. Thank you.